So we have covered how to read config settings and constant work. I mean the sheets. Now I'm going to cover how to read this asset sheet. Okay. So here you see that settings and constant. It has a similar column name and value description. Here also constant name value description. So I have used these two sheet. I combined this shoot. I mean these two sheets into one. Okay. So here in the asset we have a different column name. Okay. Let me create a asset a different column name, and it's like name. Okay. Let me add a name, then asset. Okay, then orchestrator asset folder, and description. Okay, and so these are my asset page column, and here I have a name asset and orchestrator asset folder and description. Okay, so let's say how I have a asset name. I mean the value, sorry, the key. I have the key like Amazon URL or price before URL. Okay, Amazon space URL. Okay, here maybe price before. There is two website. Let's say there is a two website, and I have a two website. I have stored two website address into this orchestrator asset. Okay, URL. So here if I say asset, what is asset here? Here okay, the label, but in this scenario, and so you can give your label and value here also, which is always constant or standard. But in this case the value it may be it may keep on change monthly or quarterly or yearly ones, and so those kind of inputs we are going to store it in a orchestrator assets. Okay, let me open my UiPath orchestrator. Okay, so go to your tenant. So here I have HR department. Let's say in the HR department I have a these many assets. Okay, so here I have a test login URL and test login credentials and Office 365 server name and port number. Okay, let me go here in my Excel. Let me remove this all name, because I have here a different assets. Okay, let me use that as well. So here I have a asset. So you guys are aware of how to create assets in orchestrator. I'm going to use this test login URL and as an asset. Okay, and the next one is credential leave it, and so I'm going to use only for text except credentials. I'm going to use other assets. Okay, Office 365 server name I can add asset name, and so you can go here Office 365 port number. Okay, and go to Excel and add it. Okay, so here the name you can give the same name here, or else just add something is look like different. So this is test login URL, and this is Office 365 server this is Office 365 port number. Okay, so here I have a server and here I have a port number. These are my keys and these are my asset name. Okay, asset name, and I have to mention that asset orchestrator asset folder as well. Okay, this is my folder HRDEPT. Okay, go here and HRDEPT department, HR department for all this. Then you can give here description. This URL used to some or you can mention, you can give the detailed description of this particular asset. Okay, this is done, and go to your studio, and we have already we have designed the flow to read the settings and constant sheet, and collapse it, and go to your activity panel and drag and drop one more sequence. Okay, and that is for read only assets. Okay, read only for assets. Okay, so this is done, and now so I'm going to add read range activity directly. Okay, read range activity directly, and so here read range workbook activity. Okay, and here I'm going to give the same path, that is the in config file path, because I'm going to read from the same file path, and here the sheet name. So I'm going to add a asset here. Okay, my sheet name is asset. Okay, I am going to give a hard code here, the sheet name, because I'm going to use only one sheet, right? So it's the same like if I give here, and or else if I give it here, both are same only. So I'm going to give it here in the sheet name. Then that way that particular output will be stored into dt underscore asset. Okay, so now I got all this information into my data table variable. Okay, and this is for asset. Okay, and so okay, yeah, this is for asset, and I have to use for each and drag and drop for each data table activity. Okay, so here in the for each data table activity, so you need to call your data table, this asset data table, dt asset. Okay. Okay, so this is also for asset row. So let me tell asset row. Okay, so here also I'm going to remove this current row. I will keep only row. Okay, similar if condition I need to use. Okay, here also I may split for my identification, for I can split like this. This is a test login URL, and this is Office 365. There is an empty row, right? In order to handle that, drag and drop if conditions. Okay, the same syntax. So here not, okay, not string dot is null or empty. If you use only one time or one or two times, you used to call this, okay, row of name. Okay, our column also here name, and dot to string. Okay, dot trim. Okay, and because here our column name also name. Okay, that's fine, and this is done, and this I can tell that I can rename that like config row is not empty. Okay, that's it. So next what? Next I need to take asset name and orchestrator folder. Okay, so here if you see in the previous settings and constant, and we have directly stored this config, right? So okay, let's copy this. Okay, and I'm going here into this workflow, and I pasted here. Okay, but here I have a different scenario. I need to get, I'm not going to get value from here. This is not my value. Okay, this is my asset name. I have to get asset value from the orchestrator. Okay, in order to get orchestrator asset, and what activity I can use? I can use get asset activity, right? Get asset activity. So if you drag and drop get asset activity, and so there will be, it's asking two parameters. One is orchestrator folder path and asset name. Then I can store it into a dictionary variable, right? But in order to force orchestrator folder path and asset name, I need to drag and drop to assign activity to store them in a different variable. Okay, I can drag and drop to assign activity, and here I can create a asset name, because each iteration I used to get a different asset name, right? So here I can tell that a row of asset dot toString. Okay, so I think asset is my column name. That's correct. So I'm just telling that so each iteration from the row of asset, and that particular column value, store it here in the asset name. Okay, so this is for asset name. Okay, and then after that, this is for orchestrator folder path, right? And go on, create a variable orchestrator folder path. Or folder name. Okay, orchestrator folder name. Okay, and here in the right side you can give row of, within double quotes, dot to string, and go here and copy this column name. Always copy from the Excel because that's a better approach. And okay, now I got asset name on orchestrator folder name. Yes, I can pass that variable here, orchestrator. Here you see, click on this variable and the plus button, and you can orchestrator folder name. Okay, that is added. Then asset name, add your asset name here. Okay, that is done. Then after providing orchestrator folder name, asset name, it will produce a variable, the output that you can store it that is the asset value, right? I can create a variable asset value, enter. Okay, that asset value I am going to store into dictionary variable. So I have the same dictionary variable only, but I have because there is a two different scenario to read the data. Settings and constant is a same scenario. I have used this particular approach, but asset is a different scenario because I used get asset. So in order to use get asset, I need this two parameter asset name orchestrator, that is available from the Excel, asset name and orchestrator. And so once I'm getting one by one, then I'm passing those input here, and I'm getting the output from the orchestrator. Okay, it will retrieve the value from the orchestrator. Then that value I'm passing into dictionary variable with the key of name column. That's it. Okay, now let's check whether the asset is retrieving or not. Before that, I can put a try catch for this entire block, or else you can put a try catch for this particular for loop where it is, this for each is there, right? So you can add a try catch. Let me add a try catch, surround with the try catch. It will be added with a try catch. So in this try catch, so because let's say you have mentioned here the asset name, but if the asset name is not available in the orchestrator, and it will throw an error. So definitely without that particular asset we cannot move further, right? Because we need input to the bot. If any one of the input is missed, then definitely we need to throw that error, right? Then go here and click on this particular place. Okay, let's say in the exception and add a system.exception and here you can drag and drop through. Okay, through. Then here you can mention that, like, so which asset is you are not able to load it. So let's say new exception open bracket. You can add some customized um, uh, statement like loading assets and within double quotes. Then you can mention that which asset is that. You can mention row of asset or asset name. You have you are already getting the asset name, right? You can mention that asset name. I think the scope is different, and go here and check the asset name here and go to variable panel, and this should be okay. Let me change it, the entire scope. Okay, go here and you can mention that which asset. Okay, asset name and plus failed in double quotes, failed. So failed, what is the exception source? So it is failed. Exception message or exception source is not required. Exception message, then call your exception dot message. So this will this will let you know so which asset is not available on your system. Okay, loading asset, asset name, failed, exception message, close bracket. Okay, let's save it. So this is for throw an exception. So this is for fail to load asset failed to load. That's it. Okay, so I will throw that exception as well. So now, as of now, this part is done. This read asset is done. So how can I access this asset? Same, like, see here, I can copy the same. So let's say I want to get this particular asset, Office 365 server name, and I can give this key and here in the out config, and then I will get this particular asset value. Okay, go and close it, and so I will put a breakpoint here, toggle breakpoint, and step into and click on continue. So it's reached here. Now we are in the read asset block, and it's reading entire sheet, and then it's going into try block, and then it's getting each row one by one, and then you see asset name, it's storing a value, and orchestrator folder. Asset name, here you see test login URL, and the orchestrator folder, I mean the folder name HR department. Then providing these asset name, test login URL, and HR department is going to retrieve the asset value from the orchestrator. So the folder does not exist or the user does not have the option. So 1 second. So I have connected with a different orchestrator, and let me reconnect it. Okay, so let me go here and disconnect. Okay, and so I have a different orchestrator. So Okay, so now it's connected to the right orchestrator. So let me step into again and click on continue, and again click on continue. Yeah, now it's reached to the right place, so I can step into try catch, and so going into storing asset name orchestrator folder, and it's executed the get asset successfully. You see the asset value here, you see the test login. This is the value retrieved from the orchestrator. So that value I'm going to store it in the dictionary variable with the key. Okay, so same like now I'm going to repetitively storing. So all the, then I think now you have seen that in the second time it went to in the else part because there is a empty row. Okay, then again it's storing the another asset value, that is the server name. Okay, into this. So again it's going to store in the another asset. Okay, server name port. Now everything is done, it's coming out. Okay, so it's coming out. Then in the finally now we have kept on right line to check the result. So I required no Office 365 server. Okay, so step into, you see it's printed Office 365 server value, it's retrieved from the orchestrator. Okay, this is how you need to get orchestrator values from the I mean using this approach. Okay, from the config file. And so what if any error, I mean any asset is, I mean the asset is not available in the orchestrator, let's say. So instead of deleting the orchestrator, okay, let me go here in the, I'm going into my orchestrator. So let's go to asset, and this is my server name. Okay, Office 365 server name. Let's say this particular orchestrator asset name I have renamed like orchestrator server name something like T. Okay, I added some name, different name, but in my Excel I have mentioned that the Office 365 server name. So this time, and your bot will throw an error, hey, I am not able to find the uh, particular assets. Okay, and now I'm going to click on run file. Now you see throw asset failed load, and the message is loading asset Office 365 server name failed. So through this we can able to identify, okay, so there is something issue with this Office 365 server name. Then we need to check config file whether that asset name is correct, and also we need to check in the orchestrator. So if it is all deleted or something, or if they had something renamed, then we can update that particular assets. Okay, but usually we should not after creating asset name we should not edit it, because it may be used in some other process also. Okay, make sure that whatever the name is here, try to use that name. Okay, so this is how we need to access asset input through this workflow. Okay.